Good morning. It is 11:08 a.m. on Sunday, November 26th, 2017. I'm Christiana Ellis and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. Today is Sunday, which means we are continuing our rewatch of Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, with this time with season 1, episode 4, The Visual Device Will Laugh. Sorry, excuse me, I said that weird. The title of the episode is The Visual Device Will Laugh, Interceptor. And this is the first in the season so far, the first complex episode, as opposed to the standalone episodes, which we've discussed in previous weeks. And so this is the first episode in the season that begins the ongoing story, the big A plot of the season, the Laughing Man. And it's interesting too that a little bit like last week, where suddenly everybody's talking about an incident that occurred prior to the episode that we hadn't known anything about before, this one definitely begins with some knowledge already, like in the sense that the Laughing Man is a case that happened 6 years ago and kind of dried up, and they have still investigators investigating it, but they never found anything, and that's actually kind of a source of frustration. And so we actually begin the episode with someone we come to know as Yamaguchi, who turns out to be an old friend of Togusa, and he's working late, and we learn, like later, again, that what he's working on is this Laughing Man case. He's working late. And then we see someone coming into the office acting really strange. His pant legs and shoes are soaking, like he's maybe been walking through puddles without avoiding them. And he's just acting very kind of stiff and unusual. And he comes in and basically challenges Yamaguchi on working late. And we even see him reach into his jacket like he's going for a gun. And Yamaguchi is acting as if all of this is very ordinary. But we also see a little bit of a sweat drop indicating he is scared and very carefully trying to act as though there is nothing amiss, that he doesn't notice what's going on. It's all very strange and creepy at first, just because we not only see a guy acting creepy, but also a guy acting like there's nothing creepy about the creepy guy. But then we see him, Yamaguchi, leaving, and he has an envelope, and as sort of an afterthought, we see him put it in the mail. Although I take it back, it's probably not an afterthought, because for it to have get delivered to his wife, he probably would have had to postmark it and stamp it and so on. And so, in any event, he puts something in the mail on his way, which, this is classic noir or spy intrigue stuff. The idea that, I think someone might be trying to kill me, so I have to send my research separately so that they don't take it away. In any event, he calls Togusa, this is bringing Section 9 into the story, reminds him that they're friends from the academy, tells him which case he's been working on, namely the Laughing Man case, which at this point, So at this point in the season, all we know about the Laughing Man case is that a hacker who appeared to be a super class A hacker kidnapped and held at ransom the CEO of a technology corporation, a micro machines or nano machines corporation named Serrano Genomics. And that was this big incident, but according to the discussions that we have later with Aramaki and the Major, his work apparently turned mediocre after that, and everyone's a little bit confused, not sure why. So that sounds like he continued activity, but not in the same level of quality, and they never caught him. And so that's all very interesting. But so we have him working on Yamaguchi working on the case, but he says he needs to talk to Togusa, and we see that it's late. So it's already a little bit like Togusa's on edge, a little bit like, oh, this seems very serious. So I will definitely wait here for you to come and tell me what you need to tell me. But then we see something kind of mysterious happen with Yamaguchi, is that he is driving very fast, and then all of a sudden something happens with his eyes. He says, "The interceptors, they're in my eyes too." And then he crashes and the car explodes and he dies. So when Togusa wakes up in the morning, having waited all night, and sees the report of this car crash, he knows something suspicious is happening. He brings in Aramaki and the major. He tells everybody, basically saying, "Look, I can't prove anyone killed him, but it's very suspicious timing, and he definitely said he was, needed to tell me something." So everyone agrees, yeah, that's pretty weird, right? So we see Togusa visiting Yamaguchi's funeral, and his wife gives him the envelope that we saw Yamaguchi mail at the beginning. And there's just further... This is all very classic detective story stuff at this point. Very film noir in terms of the beginning, and having Togusa sort of be the focus. He's the detective in this case, and he has his allies in Section 9, but he's definitely the protagonist of this particular case at this point. And so he gets these pictures, and it's weird because these pictures all seem very personal, but nothing really scandalous in them. And so it's like, why would these pictures be so important? And then he has this realization after kind of looking in the mirror that there's no camera, that these pictures seem to be taken from the perspective of the subject's own eyes. And that's where we get let in, that the idea of interceptors is a technology that's new but not secret, where you can implant something in someone's brain and then essentially surveil them through their own eyes and ears. But the idea that it would be installed on the detectives in the Laughing Man case is weird and illegal. So Section 9 is definitely saying at this point, like, okay, what's going on? This is very strange. But they decide to, I'm kind of just listing the summary at this point. One thing that I will call out just at this point in the episode is, we don't get a lot from the major in this episode. She's just kind of an exposition machine in some scenes, but there is an interesting kind of enigmatic moment with her where we see her stop in and watch Togusa looking at all the pictures and kind of smile sort of protectively. We definitely get the sense that she feels protective of Togusa. But it's also a little bit weird that she doesn't let him know that she's there. She doesn't say anything, and then she disappears before he can see her. Which is a little bit like, what's going on there? Oh, I guess we also do get the scene with the major where they've decided to leak the information that the police detectives had these interceptors so that they can provoke a response from whoever's doing something they shouldn't be. So we see her go to one of her contacts. We see, a big guy with kind of an unusually high, soft voice. But she sneaks in there wearing her invisibility camouflage and gives him the information that he's supposed to leak to the reporters. And this is also classic noir detective stuff, right? The slightly shady informant and the little bit of banter of like, well, I don't know, I don't really get the customers like that anymore. And she's like, oh yeah, well, wouldn't it be bad if the police knew what kind of customers you did get, that sort of thing. And then, so they're just kind of bantering, but the impression that this is a developed relationship between these two. And that's kind of fun. But so, of course, the information does what they hoped. It sparks a response. And in fact, the police all of a sudden are now issuing a press conference where essentially they're trying to give the impression that they're now being fully transparent, that yes, these interceptors were placed in the detectives against the law and without permission by the head of the Laughing Man case, and he is going to be disciplined and step down, and that's the end of it. We're very, very sorry. But everyone, watching who's kind of in the know, we have Section 9 watching this press conference thinking, this is an attempt to cover something up by placing the blame on a scapegoat who is notably absent from this press conference. And in fact, some of the reporters are suspicious of this too. They're asking a lot of probing questions, including something that we had previously come up, which is that this company, Serrano Genomics, which was so tied to the Laughing Man case, is part of the investigation of the Laughing Man case, is the company that makes the interceptors. And so the company that makes the interceptors is supplying them to be used to surveil their own people? Something a little fishy there. And then one of the reporters calls the police commissioner, is like, weren't you gonna retire soon to Holland where Serrano Genomics is based? Isn't that weird too? And everything's still obviously, their attempt to try to sweep everything under the rug seems to be failing. And the idea that, but then this is where we get like the big reveal that sets up the rest of this season's development, is that all of a sudden one of the other guys at the table starts acting strange, and then he leans into the camera, and everyone watching on TV suddenly sees this icon superimposed over this guy's face. And this icon, we will come to be very familiar with it as this plot line develops. But it's a smiling, sort of laughing cartoon face. It has a little bit of a thing on the side like he's wearing a sideways baseball cap, and then words circle around and say, I thought what I'd do was I'd pretend I was one of those deaf mutes, which I won't get further into now because that gets examined in future episodes. But that's what we see, and it pops over. And the Section 9 is alarmed, first of all, because they recognize this is the symbol of the Laughing Man. It's apparently what he used before. And they quickly realize this is a live broadcast on multiple channels that he is apparently hacked in, able to put his symbol over a specific person's face on multiple live feeds simultaneously, which seems pretty impressive. Like even in one of the tricky things that they have in a show like this is that it's hard for us, the viewer, to know what's impressive and what's not. Like the idea that you could spy on people with, using their own senses by implanting a nanomachine in their brain sounds impressive to us until we have the characters in the show go, oh yeah, interceptors, I know about those. But the only way they can really convey that to us is by having the characters themselves react. And certainly the Major and Aramaki and Togasa and everyone watching this press conference, plus the score of the episode kicks in with the suspenseful dramatic music of everyone going, whoa, whoa. This Laughing Man who has been inactive for several years and they never caught him is suddenly showing up again and doing something really impressive. This idea that his hacking skills had degenerated seems not to have been the case. And so, and then, as an interesting further wrinkle to that, which we can't, Section 9 wouldn't have been able to see because they were not physically there, is that we see that one of the other people at the table looks at the guy who's being controlled and suddenly sees that image appear over his face in real life. Now, we know, of course, that many of the people in this show, in this world, have cybernetics in their brains and in their senses and their bodies already. So we can imagine that that's what's happening, but that just means all the more he's not even just hacking the TV feeds, he's hacking the cybernetics of the people in the room to make this, this image appear over the guy's head. But so while controlling this guy basically suggests, I was trying to stay retired, I didn't want to get back into this, but if you're going to make a farce of all of this, you're going to force me to intervene. And he basically threatens the police commissioner that if you don't come clean with the actual truth, I'll have you eliminated. The implication being, has the guy make gun fingers. And so the mystery begins. The Laughing Man case. And as we in the world of the show, this is a reawakening of an old case, a cold case. But it's kind of exciting just because this is a very interesting case, or at least that's how I remember it from the first time. So we'll see how it holds up in the rewatch. But the next couple of episodes, 5 and 6, are also going to be complex episodes, and I believe that the next one will have us learn more about the previous incidents that led to this Laughing Man case and what that was all about. I think they review it in the next episode, but we shall see. So I think that'll probably cover it for today, and thanks for watching. And I'll be back next week to talk about episode 5 of Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. And in the meantime, I'll talk to you tomorrow for 5 more minutes.